Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Emily Hiles, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Air Force is Group Captain Ralph Kettle. We warmly welcome the family of Sergeant James Pryor Thatcher, who are in attendance, and those families watching the live stream of this ceremony from Perth, Western Australia. His story will be told shortly. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services Leagues Association and the RSL and Services Club of Australia. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across the country. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by family, visitors to the memorial, and students on behalf of the following schools: Murrumbidgee Regional High School from Griffith, New South Wales, and the Australian International Academy of Education from Coburg, Victoria. If you're able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where family and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, flowers of the forest. Wreaths and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Sergeant James Pryor Thatcher. James Thatcher, known as Jim, was born in Fremantle, Western Australia on the 23rd of July 1915. The son of Ernest and Jessie Thatcher of Wattle Creek Farm in Byford, Western Australia, he grew up to work as a dairy farmer. The Thatcher family was well established as members of the Byford community. James's mother was secretary of the Byford branch of the Country Women's Association, and James was well known as an amateur boxer and for having served in the local militia unit, the 10th Light Horse, for over 3 years. James Thatcher enlisted in the 2nd Australian Imperial Force on the 20th of May 1940. He soon entered Northam Camp, where he was allotted to the newly formed 2nd, 3rd Machine Gun Company and promoted to acting corporal. Initially formed in South Australia, the battalion was stretched across several locations, with companies being formed in Victoria, Tasmania and Northam, Western Australia. Thatcher and his Western Australian comrades, who had intended to join the 2nd Machine Gun Battalion, completed basic training at Northam. In late March 1941, Thatcher was granted pre-embarkation leave, and in April he embarked from Fremantle for overseas service. Arriving in the Middle East a week later with his rank of corporal recently confirmed, Thatcher continued to rise through the ranks. He was appointed Lance Sergeant in June and Acting Sergeant in September. His unit had been assigned to the 7th Division, which was committed to the Syria-Lebanon campaign in early June. The 2nd 3rd was heavily involved in the sharply contested campaign, seeing action around Merdajun, Metula, Quintira, Sidon and Damour before the Vichy French requested an armistice in mid-July. The men then stayed on as part of the occupation force in Syria and Lebanon, defending a position northeast of Beirut. They then moved to various locations, including Aleppo on the Turkish border, throughout the remainder of 1941. By now, Japan had entered the war and the AIF had been recalled to Australia. Units from the 7th Division began to return to Australia. Thatcher and his unit sailed on the 1st of February, but the battalion was about to be caught in the Japanese thrust. British forces in Singapore surrendered on the 15th of February. 2 days later, the troop ship Orcades reached Sumatra before going on to Batavia in Java. The Japanese were already moving through the Netherlands East Indies, and it was decided the divisional support units aboard would make a stand on Java. It proved to be a futile gesture. The small Allied force that was supposed to defend Java was built around the 2nd, 3rd and other units aboard Orcades, as well as a battery of American artillery already on Java and a squadron from the 3rd King's Own Hussars. The commanding officer of the 2nd, 3rd, Arthur Blackburn, was promoted to brigadier and was placed in command of the force, which became known as Black Force. The Japanese landed on Java on the 28th of February, and Black Force went into action on the 4th of March, fighting for 2 days before Dutch forces surrendered and Black Force was ordered to lay down its arms. Those who had survived the fighting spent the rest of war as prisoners. The conditions they would experience were brutal. Of the almost 15,000 Australians captured during the Malayan campaign and fighting around Singapore, 2/3 survived. 139 men from the 2nd 3rd died while they were prisoners. Among their number was James Thatcher, who was recorded as having died of amoebic dysentery while a prisoner of war in Thailand on the 22nd of November 1943. Today his remains lie in Kanchanaburi War Cemetery, one of almost 7,000 graves in the main prisoner of war cemetery for victims of Japanese imprisonment. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right among almost 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Sergeant James Pryor Thatcher, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall not grow old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, or the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of our director and staff, we thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support of the Memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening.